Welcome to the November 4th edition of the Lifeboat Academy Coordination Circle. As is our custom, we start with a land acknowledgement. And today I am reminded of one of our sayings, which is we center the land to decenter the ego. And thinking about how the habit, the custom of starting with a land acknowledgement at the beginning of our meetings is not for the sake of the land, it is for the sake of us. It is as a reminder to us to right size our relationship to the bigger picture, to the bigger world. And a reminder that it is really easy for us funny hairless apes, to get all lost in the stories that we tell ourselves about how it works and who we are and how important we are and all of that. But in the end, the land was here long before we were. We are only here because the land, in its wisdom, saw fit to find a place for us in the ecosystem. And the land will continue on long after we are gone, individually and collectively. And so in acknowledging the land, we are really trying to bring ourselves back to right relationship. What is our right niche in the world? Where do we fit? How do we fit? And a reminder that we are enmeshed in a larger, incomprehensibly complex system that goes from the little microbiota that caused the soil up to the blue whale and everything in between. And so in doing so, we also acknowledge a debt of gratitude to the indigenous cultures of the world and the individual knowledge keepers who have kept this alive at great cost to themselves over the generations. And so we acknowledge the tenacity and the generosity of spirit that has maintained this seemingly very simple and perfectly obvious nugget of wisdom that yet somehow we as a culture have forgotten. So we bring ourselves into the landscape, we bring ourselves back to the land as a way of decentering the ego. Nothing wrong with egos. It's all well and good that we should have them, but we are a part, one part, each of us. And it's comforting and to remind ourselves of that, to know that there is a bigger intelligence at work, and we have our job to do and no more than our job to do. And that job is to listen to all our relations, to listen deeply to our human relations and the stories that they tell about their experiences, and to our more than human relations, and to respond as we are called to respond, knowing that it is in our nature to be good relations. So with that, I specifically acknowledge that I'm coming to you from the territory of the WSÁNEĆ, who have been the traditional stewards of this land for time immemorial, who are still here, who are still our neighbors, who are still bringing wisdom and gifts to this world where we are. And may this be a motivation for us to be good relations, good neighbors, good ancestors. So with that, let's just take a moment to actually ground ourselves here in the landscape. So I invite you to take a moment just to close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, feel the weight of your body just pressing down into the seat beneath you. Feel the support of the chair and the earth coming up to support you. Notice how when you breathe in fresh energy. And as you breathe out, you let go of what no longer serves you. And in doing this simple thing, you are engaged in a never-ending act of reciprocity And even in your very breath, you are one with the landscape and one with the world around you. So I invite you to take one more energizing breath in, and on the exhale, just let go of anything that keeps you from being present and showing up here in the meeting today. All right. And time for a check-in. The circle as I see it is Roland, Ronnie, April, me. And I think today is a good one for the classic weather question. So what's the weather like with you, internal or external? Over to you, Roland.
It started out heavy rain, and then it was changeable sun and cloud. So I feel like the weather has given us the full gamut today, short of snow, knock on wood. Over to the next person. I forget who it is.
Ronnie.
Uh, it's been cloudy for days with just sprinkles of rain, and we haven't had rain for so long. I feel the pressure building outside and also inside myself. Um, I feel like an actual pouring rain with thunder would just feel like such a relief. So I'm keeping my expectations radically low, but I have some hope. So we'll see if that happens. Over to April.
The weather around me is wild. We've had a North Pacific storm and we still have really extreme winds. And I have to say, my body has responded to all of that, wanting to be outside as soon as the sun comes out, and then retreating back inside and really wanting to be nurtured, I guess, nurtured and warmed. But still watching out the window almost all the time to see what's going on. So there's some excitement in this weather too, I think. Over to Ben.
Yeah, like Roland said, it's been very changeable um, and in a way, I think, the storm was a bit overhyped here. But I, a true confession, I've downloaded 5 different weather apps and I'm trying to compare which of them is my, my preferred weather app. So with the storm, I was going from like, what do they say is going to happen? What do they say is going to happen? They say 20 millimeters and they say 5 millimeters. I wonder what it's going to be. And anyhow, as a metaphor, I think it is just interesting. I am trying to figure out what's going to happen, and what's going to happen is just what's going to happen, and it's all of the above. So maybe I should take that as a lesson. Just enjoy the weather as it happens. All right. I'm gonna start us in a kind of more normal way. We were doing our coordination circle. There's a lot of things going on. We're sort of in a weird transition-y, non-transition-y kind of time with a lot of different things going on. And so I'm going to lean into the wisdom of the circle and go once around and say, what are you hoping to get out of our time together? Sort of what seems like it would be useful to you. And we'll kind of, we have a couple things on the agenda, but let's just see what naturally we want to put on the agenda. So Roland, what's on your agenda today?
My Primo is the website. Yep. Over to Ron.
Me too. Over to April.
I'm looking for updates on some of the sessions that have been going on, and of course, sounds like the website as well. Over to Ben.
Yeah, cool. The one thing I would like to add is I put together kind of an outline for a pitch deck And I'd love to be able to go over that. And I think it's relevant to the website. It's basically what are some of the messages that we're including there. Great. Okay, cool. I think then we got some consensus, and let us also start with reconnecting with the big picture, reconnecting with our North Star. And so I'm gonna share screen and go over to Asana and our agenda. And so let's revisit our North Star. And I'm going to do the classic. And basically, we have our three main questions. What are we trying to accomplish? Why are we trying to accomplish that? And where are we now? And you can answer any one of them, all three of them, whatever is coming for you. And you can always pass. So what are we trying to do together, and why does that matter? Over to you, Roland.
Meta-crisis, world hell in the handbasket. The goal is to live life well, regardless of what happens. And we are establishing, we are suggesting, we are inviting people to come help build what comes after. And we're joining other people who are also and talking to other people who are also interested in what comes after. Over to Ronnie.
We are continuing to update our framework for supporting people who are building lifeboats. Iteratively, that word feels important. It's important because what Roland said, basically, hell in handbasket and all that. Where are we now? We are setting up our 2025 cohort infrastructure and thinking about the relationships and materials that are integral to that. Over to April.
We are trying to return to the mindset of the commons and building resilience for ourselves and those around us by collaborating for lifeboat building. It's important because there seem to be fewer and fewer places in our world to be able to do that. And this is one of them where we can do that. And where we are now is what Ronnie has just said, but also kind of shifting gears, it feels like to me. And earlier Ben said something about transitions, and kind of that's how it feels to me, that we are trying to plan out what a transition could be at the same time as we are transitioning over to Ben.
Um, yeah, the Commons is really resonating with me in terms of what we are trying to accomplish. And I think that is, we're learning to unlearn to relearn. And in particular, I think what we're unlearning is extraction. Just thinking about how the way we treat the land is the way we treat each other. And so relearning the Commons is actually relearning how to be relational, how to do reciprocity and accountability. And why is that important? Because I think I'm toying with the idea in some of the stuff I've been writing lately. I'm toying with the idea resilience equals commons. You know, that is the definition of resilience, is mutual support and peer-to-peer relations. And where are we now? I am feeling the iterative is definitely part of it. And there's also the fractal, I think it's fractal iteration or something like that, that I'm aware that we are at the end of our fiscal year. We're actually in that wonderful gap between we've ended Halloween is the end of our fiscal year, and our new year actually begins in January in a, like kind of, so there's this in the AIM Act Reflect cycle, we are the time of year, the season of the year that is reflection. And so I think that's what April was talking about in terms of we're transitioning, we're planning our transition and we're transitioning at the same time. Yeah. Having everyone having had a chance to share, let's just go once around to see if there's anything then that it's coming up for you in terms of what other people are sharing. So back around to you, Roland.
All good. Over to Ronnie.
I'm good. Over to April.
I'm good too. Over to Ben. Are you good?
All right. And I am going to not review our annual and seasonal plan since we're kind of in the process of I think one of the things that we'll be updating is how we're going to I think in the updates we'll cover what we need to cover in terms of the annual planning type stuff. So let's actually just go into guild reports and build from there. Does that make sense? So, okay. Okay, so let's get a report from Heartwork and Philosophy.
I don't, we had a meeting and we talked, and then the meeting was over. That I think is pretty much it. We just did some, I think from what I remember anyway, we did mostly sort of processing where we've been and what we've learned. And I don't think that we have anything to put forward for anything currently, but I will pass over to April and to Ben to see if they remember anything that I don't.
And I would say the annual report, I've been thinking about it, but haven't written a darn thing in my head yet, but soon. And yeah. Oh, reminders. Yes, we thought it was good to have reminders. So here's an example of why it's good. Yeah, badges came up again as sort of what the meaning of the badge system is. We're creeping ever closer to having something definitive, I think. about that. Hmm. Okay, there was something else, but I can't remember now. Oh, I think that there's some overlap with some of the stuff we're doing with outreach, if I'm not mistaken. And that's all from me.
Yeah, I would add, yeah, the last meeting, we really focused on pulling to, since we've had a couple of conversations going on for a while that kind of wove together for our, what have we learned this year? And so looking at our accomplishments, I did do a little, I looked at the Asana board, at the Asana project for artwork. And we had 18 meetings over the year. We accomplished 2 milestones that took 41 subtasks. And there are probably things that, didn't get coded in the right place. So we may have done more than that, but and then the big accomplishments were the connect the dots and the 6 conversations and the agreement circle. And yeah, so we looked at our lessons learned, and one of the things that we wanted to do was to kind of seed that practice for the other guilds as well, to take a moment to look back on the year and to gather together our lessons learned and next steps. We've been talking a lot, and I think this is leading up to our annual design charrette, opening that conversation again about how did the guilds. It feels to me like we've got the right general guilds, and like that feels like it's sort of settling in, and it's just sort of tweaking what goes in which guild. And yeah, I think that's it. And I don't think we have any next steps specifically that we talked about for heart work, other than keep on keeping on with the agreement circle and the connect the dots and whatnot. So I guess I will pass over to you, Ronnie. Do you have any questions, comments, additions? All right. Next up is research and learning. What's new here? You know what? I don't think there's been a lot of work here. I will say that we've been doing a lot of work around the bylaws and the cohort. And I think all of the recruiting the cohort for 2025, and there's a lot of work getting done for the research project there. And I think the research project is kind of poised to be activated as we start to do the other work. As we start to reach out for people for feedback on the bylaws and to recruit people, I think that it's kind of going to be, hopefully it will get a boost at the same time. At least that's my thinking. And questions, comments, additions, over to you, Roland.
I think that's good. April, anything to add?
No, I think that's about it.
Ronnie? Okie dokie. Next up, finance and legal. This is where there has been a ton of activity. Our bylaws are shareable now. And by that, I mean we have a clean copy that we can send out to allies and partners. We have a couple questions for the lawyers that are just sort of technical things, but nothing really major. And we already had a conversation with Michelle Sadler from Stocksy, who gave us some good feedback. And I am in correspondence with the Community Land Trust Association, I think they are, of Canada. I'm setting up a meeting where they're going to help us look at the bylaws and give us some advice. And we have probably close to half a dozen other people that were on our list to reach out to. And the supporting documents. So it's the bylaws, and the bylaws reference our operations manual for the details, and that is 90% in place and up to date. Everything being iterative, and there will always be revisions. But the materials are actually in a pretty good state. And yeah, I feel like it seems totally plausible that we could have a legal co-op by January.
Wow.
The actual filing, there's a natural progression. Now that we have the bylaws, the first round of outreach will be to allies, people who know about co-ops and the commons and such, for any advice they might give. And sort of parallel to that is starting to talk to potential investors, stakeholders is probably the better language, who generally, when you form a co-op, you have subscribers at the very beginning, sort of the initial people who are willing to be part of the co-op. So the next step is to find some people who would be willing to sign on as subscribers to the co-op. And yeah, so that's feeling very exciting. And Roland, do you have anything to add? All right, well then, once around for questions, comments. I guess next over, Ronnie.
This is very exciting. And I'm like, what can we put on the website? Because I want people to see it and think, oh, that's really cool. Because I think it's really cool. Yeah, awesome. Over to April.
Yeah, it feels like somehow riding a wave, which is a good thing. And a real wave, not just an imaginary one, but an actual thing. And the fact that it could be something by January, that's stonking good, I think. Over to Ben.
Yeah. We could actually have our design charrette work the way we were kind of hoping the first one would 2 years ago. And it's like, here's a form, buy a share. So, and I'd be, excited. I too am excited for how it's coming together. Next up, farm food and housing. Roland, do you want to give us a quick update there?
I have put a note for myself to set up the first meeting to reinvigorate it. Any questions?
I will say, actually, there has been continuing work. We're in winter prep mode. So there has been a transition to bring all of the things in from the rain, and to look at, I think our big focus right now is the gardens are flooded, and how do we open up the ditches and get the water flowing through to make sure that we can actually access the gardens. But there's been a lot of winter prep stuff.
A lot of data gathering.
Yeah, and a lot of data gathering. All
Any
right.
questions? No?
Yeah,
Okay.
great questions.
I have a question, just how many people are in the farm guild? Farm and food?
Right now, it's me and Roland.
Okay.
Yeah. See earlier comment, Ray, bylaws and
Yeah.
shares. All right, and outreach and network. Over to you, Ronnie.
So, our last meeting, Ben and I talked through the nomination form for nominating lifeboat builders for the upcoming cohort, what we wanted that to look like, as well as restructuring the website. And so, the form is now live on the website, and we actually had a submission the day after I published it, and I have no idea how these people found us, but I looked at their website and there's this whole team of people doing things that sound very lifeboaty. Um, sounds very similar to what we're doing. I'm not really sure like the nitty-gritty of what they actually are up to, but seems cool and seems like some cool people to know. So I'd be interested to connect with them. And I've done a lot of updates on the website. It's very much still in progress, and Ben is working on a content review so that we can continue to add more things to the website. But I did a little bit more today, and it's shaping up to be, I think, what we need it to be for the upcoming year. So that's exciting. And next steps are really keep on keeping on. I think today we're going to get everybody's eyes on the website. I can show everybody what I've updated so far, and we can talk about what else we might like to add and where things could go. So, Ben, do you have anything you want to add or Roland? Because I know you watched the video.
Oh, well, I did also I participated in the meeting by sending in some comments and questions. So
Yes,
that's what I did.
thank you.
Because the time is just really awkward for the outreach meeting for me. So that's how I can participate.
Yeah, I don't think, actually, do we want to, so that brings us to the end of our updates, and there's sort of a natural segue then into looking at the website.
Yeah.
If I could, I think it may be relevant and it might just mean me wanting to talk about it, but if we could pop over to the pitch deck and then come back to the website, because I think that might provide some context. One other update I'm going to put in there too is I had 2 meetings last week, one with Christina Bowman from Social Roots, and the other with Alex, I can't remember his last name, from Peerdom. And Peerdom is, they don't say it this way because they're trying to be a little bit more of a broad market, but they're basically a sociocracy support software. And they allow you to put your organizational chart, your sociocratic org chart online in a way that helps to manage the sociocracy process. It's super cool. I was really excited by it. I don't know that it's essential for what we're doing, but it's such a brilliant visualization that I feel like there might be value as a way of onboarding people and talking about it. And the other conversation I had with Christina from Social Roots, the article, I posted that article on the Slack channel about the 3 circles approach, in part because Christina pointed me to it because that's sort of the underlying philosophy that they use for setting up Social Roots. And the basic idea is in any movement or organization, there's usually a small core group that does most of the work, a slightly larger but still small group of people who are active helpers, not necessarily taking on a lead, but show up and do what they're asked to do. And then there's a very large group of people who are just on your list and, barely show up and are really kind of consumers. They're kind of waiting around for something that might be useful for them, but they're not really that engaged. And part of the logic of social roots is we often make a mistake. The 1% get fixated on trying to get the 90% to be active, and that's just a waste of time. And really what should happen is the 1% should support the 9%, and the 9% then can be the ones who kind of interface with the 90%. And actually it's a little bit more than that. It's really supporting the 9% to do make it easier for them to get involved. And with the 90%, you keep putting out the invitation, and when they show up, you're ready for them. But basically it's just, here are the events, show up if you want to, but you put your attention on the core group of people. And anyhow, I think thinking about the bylaws, thinking about the multi-stakeholder co-op, thinking about what kinds of people do we want to recruit as lifeboat builders, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, has crystallized some things. So this is my current thinking about what our pitch is and to whom. And I am imagining this right now. I've got it actually laid out by slide. And I think there's like 24 slides in the main part. And then another 5 or 6 slides that are kind of FAQs that are likely questions to come up, but we wouldn't present unless they came up. And so I'm thinking that this is relevant in terms of the website, like here are the notes that we want to make sure that we cover on the website. So the pitch is the times are bumpy and they're getting bumpier. And it's time to think about resilience. There is something really powerful in where we started years ago. Imagine a place that's a model of resilience and regeneration. What's that look like to you? Our experience has been, when we talk to people about what is resilience, we hear consistently the different aspects that we talk about. So it's a beautiful regenerative farm. It's a community. It's a learning center focused around practical skills. It's a way of working that is treating everything as an experiment. It's a rehab center for people suffering from late-stage capitalism. It's trying to recreate the village in terms of bringing together different skills and perspectives effectively to provide for our basic needs. And sum it all up, it's reclaiming the commons, one footprint at a time. And so the next point is that the commons is more than the land. It's not a commodity. The commons is actually the land plus the people. And so when we're talking about the commons, we're talking about something that's equivalent to when indigenous cultures are talking about the land. And it's not a thing, it's a relationship between people and the land and each other. So that leads us to, in order to reclaim the commons, we have to both move land out of extractive commodification. We need to remove its legal status as commodity, and we need to learn the skills of both stewardship and collaboration. So those are and it's actually stewardship and learning the skills of stewardship and collaboration is the Lifeboat Academy. The buying the property is the removing the land from the extractive model. So how we often have this sort of tension between Spalding Valley Farm and the Lifeboat Academy, and they actually are connected in that they're two halves to the coin. The way we intend on doing that is through a multi-stakeholder community services co-op. In hindsight, I can't believe we spent a lot of time talking about this, but a multi-stakeholder co-op is exactly what we are trying to do. Stakeholders have different reasons for being involved, and the co-op is about bringing those different perspectives together, centered on the land. So the stakeholders that we are trying to bring together are people who have access to more than their fair share of resources, people that have the skills necessary, both collaboration and stewardship, people with the passion and capacity to be boots on the ground. So, you know, the actual worker bees who are going to do it, who are equal partners, who often are not equal partners in these configurations. And the community that is really about many hands make light work, sort of the community that adds, distributes the load a little bit to add some buoyancy to the whole project. So I think that then the next part is, so what is the commons? This is language that a lot of people don't know or really understand, but it is and I think that the point we want to make here is that the commons, we don't know what the commons is. That's why this is an experiment. We have some ideas, but we know we're creating something new. We're creating what comes next. We're not going back to anything. So that's why the orientation is towards the experiment. And we center the land to decenter the ego, and that's really about the fair share footprint. And so we have a working model. Part of the experiment is you need to have something that you're testing. So we have a model, but we know that model is going to change over time. But the model is basically, imagine a 16-person homestead as a starting place, as sort of the simple idea. Imagine these 16 footprints are all we have to support 16 people. How would we treat it? And then we build up from that. So that's kind of the conceptual model. But then how do you make that actually work in the world? There are two parts to that: the commitment pool, which is basically just that people who are involved are agreeing to share responsibility for the care of the land and share the fruits of the labor in a way that feels equitable, where there aren't some people taking rent and other people wage slaves. And we think sociocracy, so there's the commitment pool, which is about reciprocity and accountability. And then there's sociocracy, which is about the blind ones and the elephant. It gives us a working way of running the experiments. So that's the background, and that means that there are, because of the stakeholders that we want to engage, there are 5 ways, actually 6 ways, I guess. There are 4 ways to kind of be involved on the stakeholder side, on the, legally buying shares, etc. And then there are 2 ways to be involved on the lifeboat builder side. And that would be, so then the idea with the pitch is that, here's what you need to know, buy shares, meet me in the back to find the forms. FAQs that I think are likely to come up. How does the commitment pool actually work? And that's just walking through the mechanics of it. And basically it is about calculating the true cost of production. So there's effort put into it, expenses put into it, and outputs. Do the math and you get, a certain amount of effort that goes into creating the outputs. And that becomes, there's a record of what you consume and there's a record of what you contribute, and there's a way of balancing it out. And then what's the actual plan? And that is just, we've got a physical plan, we've got a business plan, and we've got a development plan. Here are the details. What if it goes tits up? Which is just, that we sell the place and everyone walks away and everyone's made whole. And then is this legal? And talking about zoning and taxes and whatever, other questions that people might have there. So That is, those are my thoughts on where the pitch is at the moment. So once around for reactions, thoughts, concerns, questions, whatever, it's all good for the cause. Roland, over to you. What's your feedback? And you're muted.
Not much since you went over it with me last night. And I am curious. I noted you said at the beginning how it reflects with the website. And not that I'm getting away from this, but just to mention, it made me think about how can we not duplicate, how can we match formats for website, help desk, and
Yeah.
stuff like this. Just a question, no answers.
Mhm.
Over to Ronnie for comments on the deck.
Yeah, I think, I mean, a lot of this answers the criteria for the Food Planet Prize, what your website needs to cover in terms of your project. So I could imagine a sort of, I mean, this is obviously already very abbreviated, but some version of this on the website to meet the criteria. And I just think this is a really great rundown of what we're doing. I can't imagine it any simpler or clearer than this at this point. And I know that, this is many years of refinement. So I think it's great. And um, yeah, I'm excited to see how we could integrate it with the website over to April.
Yeah, I like the ideas of integrating everything, integrating this into the website, integrating what Roland said about across the different things that we have, making sure they're standardized and they fit and that they reflect the same thing. I really like this as a deck. I think it explains everything that needs to be explained at the minute, which is great, and it's much clearer in my mind, but I think also how it's presented than it was before. So you've achieved the goal, I think, there. And it's inclusive. So it's maybe the first time that everything's come together in one sequence
Mm.
of presentation in that way. I think, there will be some questions generated from this, as there should be,
Mhm.
but you've answered many of them. And what you've set out is a platform for people to go, oh yeah, now I wonder how that little bit over there works. So it's a pulling into more detail of stuff, but it's so invitational that you will have grabbed people, I think, with it before you get to any of the really detailed questions or even the frequently asked questions. So nice job with that. How do I get a copy of this? Because I want to carry this around my back pocket for when I'm just chatting to people when they say, so how are things going with the lifeboat? And I can just go, well, look at this. This is what most recently we put together. And they'll sort of roll their eyes a bit and think, oh, April's going to give us another lecture. And then I'll just give them the main points here and they'll be relieved and bring out their checkbooks as well.
Mhm.
Thank you. Anyway, this is a nice piece on the Ben.
Oh, good. Yeah, and I do think I'm actually thinking of it like, kind of a deck where, if you're talking to one person, you might be able to like just pull out four of them. Like there may actually be for the 10-minute version, we just do slides, 1 through 10. And that's the starting point, and then we wait for questions. Whereas if we're talking to a potential grantor, that, you know, we add in one of the FAQ questions because we know that's going to come up, or, you know, whatever. I like the idea of kind of having it in your back pocket, you know, if we can think of some physical ways that it can just be like here. Cool. And I think that the integration, that's what I was hoping. That's why I was mentioning, let's talk about this first before we go to the website, and we can kind of see how that layers in there. Well, and the other thing I did too is I took I pulled out what I thought this is basically from the deck on what would go on. Currently, it's the investor tab, and I'm thinking we want to change that to stakeholders.
Yeah.
And then, you know, here's it's just the deck, but it's lined up as narrative. Well, cool. Then I think let's dive over to the website then. And Ronnie, I'm going to let you drive and you can share screen. So I will stop and you can take it away.
I was muted. Can everybody see the website? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
So this is the homepage. I haven't changed anything about the homepage at this point. And I think you know, some of that slide deck might integrate here. I'm not really sure yet. But this is the same. We have these two, or this testimonial from Elizabeth May at the bottom. These footers, I'm still not, need to be updated. I haven't worked on those yet. But what you can see I have changed at the top is we have these working titles for the different sections. And first I'll go to the Lifeboat Builders tab. So this is really our 2025 cohort recruitment page. And this is some copy that Ben put together, which is really just based on what we've already had written for years. But it's talking about, we're accepting nominations for the cohort, a little bit about the support that you'll receive if you're part of the cohort. And then we have a nominate button, which I'll get to in a minute. But down here, we mentioned the specific things that people will receive in terms of being part of the cohort, as well as links to the help desk and upcoming events. Yeah, so I will go to, I fixed the nominate link so that it goes to the actual form, which is here. And I added our little logo to the form today. So basically you can choose, I'm nominating myself or I'm nominating someone else. This is all based on the Food Planet Prize form. We basically just took their form and adapted it. But what's the name of the nominatee, which makes me think of manatee, which is funny. Anyway, name, country, a bit about the project, if you have a website, your email address. And then if you've nominated someone else, we ask for your name and email. And then if you'd like to sign up for the Lifeboat newsletter so that we can get connected with people that way. And then there's also underneath the Lifeboat Builders tab, you can just go directly to this page if you want to. I currently have an email out to David to ask him how to add an image to the top banner here. I've looked all over WordPress and I can't figure it out, but hopefully he'll get back to me soon so I can add a cool photo. We have a pharmastery tab, which I just added a little gallery today, different farm photos. There's a lot there. I just kind of like threw stuff in because like I wanted people to see the physical farm first to kind of get a sense. And then we have our pretty much the same info about the place-based action learning commons. I updated the language a little bit here at the first paragraph to say the heart of the Lifeboat Academy is the pharmastery at Spalding Valley Farm, a living experiment focused on maximizing quality of life, etc. So I think this is a really great base level of info about the farm, and we can talk more about what the pharmastery page includes. The events page I'm very proud of. What it looks like now is we have in the center, we have the Lifeboat newsletter. So I've taken the meme as well as the latest piece by Ben. I've added the 2 different flyers for the events that are upcoming. And then this other meme to kind of close out that portion of the newsletter. And then we have the previous newsletter before that. And then on the left-hand side here, I figured out how to update all of this. So we have the Connect the Dots Club, time, dates, description, sign up link, same for navigation sessions, the 2 upcoming dates, register link, and then the Lifeboat webinar on YouTube. People can just watch it if they want, as well as the link to schedule office hours with Ben. So that was exciting for me to figure out because I really wanted to update that for a long time. And then I changed, I don't remember what it said before, but now it says invest in the project. We could change that to stakeholders. And I haven't added or updated the copy at all. But we have the transition economics, the different kinds of shareholders. And then we have the stewardship council. I moved the stewardship council to this page because it just seemed more, because it's more project infrastructure related. I moved it there, but that's pretty much where we are. And then the contact page is the same. So, yeah.
Alrighty. So let's head around the circle and comments, thoughts. Over to you, Roland.
Well, I looked at the website earlier today, and I think it may have been while you were working on it because the nomination page wasn't working, but now it is. I do have a question about the events page because I checked, and it may have been fixed since I checked some of the links, and several don't go to the right place. And then there's also a whole bunch of stuff at the bottom that we didn't go over today. And I don't know if it's still there or not. It's like past events, and there's a duplication of things also at the bottom where actually the links there are actually the correct links for what they're calling for. Anyway, so there's a little detail-y things, but I don't know where you're at in doing things. So I don't know if this is just stuff that you haven't gotten to yet or whatever. So I'm just going to, that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about. I really like the reduced tabs at the top. I think that's totally aces. So anyway, so I just am not entirely sure how the events page is working with all that extra stuff at the bottom. So over to over to Ronnie or over to April?
It's over to April.
Okay, I really like the layout and the crispness of this, and it's inviting language. It's great. I have to say, it's impressive how much stuff is going on, and how much stuff has gone on. I would like to take a longer look at this. Is it possible to get the link to, I'm assuming that it's somewhere live, maybe not live for everybody else yet, but for us, because I just would like to, yeah, look at it a little bit more and savor it in some ways. But I think it's absolutely going in the right direction. Over to Ben.
And it's the actual website. So the changes are happening right on the website. So you can just go to lifeboat.academy. Yeah, I like the layout. I agree. I like the Lifeboat Builders page. I feel like that's spot on. I agree. We need to figure out what the language is for I think that the front page, the home page, I don't think we need to change that text at all. That's still, imagine a living model. I think that works great. I think it's nice having the Elizabeth May thing underneath it. And then it's really those two bottom things that we need to figure out, what goes. And I think really it's we can always change it to, it could be three things at the bottom, one that goes to the Lifeboat Builder, one that goes to the Pharmastery, and one that goes to invest in the project. Right. So yeah, but that's just kind of figuring out what, in general, it looks good. And I think Roland's right around the kind of menu at the bottom. We never really paid any attention to it. So figuring out what are it looks like there's four slots that, we can fill up, and what are the things that we want consistently at the bottom. I feel like I think it was good before, and I feel like it's better now. And I'm with April. I'm impressed at how much has happened there. Yeah, I think and I like the events page too, with the newsletter. I mean, it's an easy way to keep the events page fresh. You're not having to double do it. Basically, the newsletter is the events. So, it just makes sense. Yeah, I don't know if I have anything else to add. So, does anyone, I'll go back to you, Ronnie, but just April and Roland, do you have anything else you want to add, or are we good in terms of, do you have anything to respond to in what other people have said, I guess? So I'm going to throw it back to you, Ronnie. Do you have any questions for us, or any requests?
I agree about the events page. There's a lot of extra stuff at the bottom that I want to clean up. It's very much been like, how do I want to format this page? And just kind of updating it as I go, but not updating the entire thing. So yeah, like this doesn't need to be here now because it's up at the top, the Connect the Dots Club and things like that. So yeah, I'll go in and just kind of clean this up.
I don't know that, well, and I don't know that we need to clean that up, because it's okay. There is something about this demonstrates to people coming to the page that we have a long history of providing events. Right? People can go back through time and they can see, oh, they did this and they did this and they did this other thing. So even if the links aren't working or whatever, it's kind of nice to give people a sense of, that there's a consistency over time. So I wouldn't get it too cleaned up,
Okay.
Or at least that's my take on it. And I'm not sure, Roland, were you talking about the newsletter part or the menus at the bottom?
The events page, the whole thing.
What do you, so you don't want the older newsletter stuff in there?
I think it's potentially confusing. There, yeah. There are old events where the links still work to Calendly and things like that. So yeah, that's all.
I think a way to mitigate that is to actually just move stuff to previous events. So like have the current newsletter first, and then everything underneath that is under past events. So people know like, oh, that event already happened. Yeah, I don't know. Also, this stuff here, like this is already other places on the website.
Mm. And it probably gets repeated on multiple newsletters.
Right. And then I had this section before I was putting the newsletter up for all our upcoming events. So now there's like everything is repeated again.
Mm. Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe I can find a happy medium between all of it. And I don't know how useful these calendars are. I just liked I use these calendars for reference all the time. So that's why I put them here.
You know, they're pretty, they look nice. They add some visual stuff. And, you know, the reality is no one's going to go deep on, if there will be very few people that will go deep on the website, right? They're going to look at the first newsletter
Yeah.
and then they're going to see, oh, that's old stuff, and they're going to stop. And if somebody happens to go further, then, you know, I don't think it's a big deal. But yeah, I think that find the happy medium on cleaning up the things that are really redundant.
Okay.
All right, cool. So do we have any other comments before we move on from this?
I think it's great it's getting done, though.
Yeah.
Agreed. Cool. Alrighty, then going back to our agenda. We've done that. Oh, okay. So we have other prep work for the, actually, hang on. Let me share and go back. So we've covered the website review, the finance and legal stuff. Actually, Ronnie, you can just go into the Asana task and pull out stuff there. I guess it's really, let's make sure that we're gathering whatever next steps are we've been talking about. The outreach for feedback on the legal structure is there's a list of people to send the bylaws to, so that's kind of in process. The prep work for the 2025 cohort, yeah, it's really just the next steps are now that we have the nomination form, we can start to invite people to nominate. And so I guess that is something maybe to talk through. Yeah, I guess I think it's end of day and it's dark and my brain just kind of shut down a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna say let's do two rounds. No, let's do one round, go through the circle. What are the next steps that you're aware of? And we'll make sure that we gather all of the next steps. And then we can have a last thoughts for the good of the cause round just to see if there's any final things. So I think we're getting close to just wrapping up here. And we can go around, we'll go the first time and then we can go back around if we need to. So Roland, are there any next steps that you're aware of that we need to get on the list here?
Pass.
What?
Pass.
Okay.
I'm gonna do another round of website stuff with the goal of reviewing it at the next outreach meeting next week. And then specifically with an eye to the criteria, the Food Planet Prize criteria. And can we get it to, this is good enough for now for sending people to the website for the nominations and stuff. That's all I have for now. Over to April.
Well, I'm wondering what the next step is for the pitch deck. Then where does it go from here? And we may already know that. I just don't know it. And the other thing is the getting people for the next cohort, which is the nomination form, right? I can't remember where that's going out to. How are people going to know that the form is there and they could do that? And over to Ben.
So in terms of the nomination form, the next steps that I've identified are I was going to check in with Brad Smith, Ardell about with the intentional community, probably Pamela, and I think I have two other people on the list and it's kind of escaping me at the moment, but people who might know other lifeboat builders. Actually, Christina Bowman, I didn't mention this, but Christina's really interested in what we're doing and really wants us to use Social Roots and was already thinking about people to send our way in terms of relationships. So Social Roots, Brad Smith. Foodlands and Ardell and Pamela. And I think this is actually, if anyone can help me brainstorm who might be good nominators. And I guess that's the other thing too, is that and I'm already planning on reaching out to the list that I am writing. And if anybody has any other thoughts about who else to connect to, that would be useful. And then the other thing would be specific invitations to people who we might think would be lifeboat builders. So so that's what I think the next steps are there. And and that reminds me, the one thing that's missing is the criteria, like how do we select potential lifeboat builders? And I think the information is easily available in our the discussion we had about partnerships. So I think it's just pulling it out. And I was going to put it in the link it from the website to the help desk. Instead of, or anyhow, I'm completely agnostic on where that lives. And then the pitch deck, the next steps are to actually create slides.
Right.
And then there are who do we want to actually say, can we give you this presentation? And we'll just brainstorm that. We've got a bunch of people that I think we already can talk to. So yeah, those seem like the next steps for me. Once more around, just to close the loop, Roland, back to you.
That all sounds good. Over to Ronnie.
I'm gonna reach out to Kath because I actually need to reconnect with her, but she knows so many people working on so many different projects. I think she'd be really excited about the form. I'm also wondering about actually recording the pitch and making a video and putting it on the website. Because currently we don't have anything relational like that on the website, and I think that it could be really cool. So just putting that out there as a proposal. And that's all I have. Over to April.
Yeah, I like the putting it on the website idea. I have nothing other than that. Over to Ben.
Yeah, I've got nothing to add. That all sounds good. So I believe that brings us to the end of our time together. So let's just we'll do a double checkout round. So the first round, any last thoughts for the good of the cause? And then actually let's just combine it into one. Last thoughts for the good of the cause and or goodbyes. So over to you, Roland.
Have a good 2 weeks until the next coordination meeting or until the next meeting, which will be before then. Over to Ronnie.
I think we did a really good job today, and I'm really excited about how everything seems to be coming together. And everybody take care. Over to April.
Yeah, it does feel like things are coming together. So all the little bits we're connecting the dots with all the far-flung things that are going on in a way. So that feels very satisfying. And that's it. Thanks. As always, a pleasure. And we'll talk soon. Over to Ben.
Yeah, agreed. Very excited. And trying to maintain my curiosity, like, I wonder where this will go, not, oh God, I hope this works. So, yeah, I'm excited to see it coming together, and hopefully I will see you all tomorrow at Connect the Dots Club for question 2 of the deep adaptation. So, or when I see you next. So with that, have a good night. Enjoy the dark. See you later.
Bye.